Gentlemen, let's talk about Father's Day. So, first of all, how do the Carrs celebrate Father's Day? Obviously, a very male-oriented, dad-oriented family. What do you guys do?
I don't know. I think I probably just go, Happy Father's Day, man. He's like, Happy Father's Day, son.
And then he takes us all to lunch.
I think that's usually what happens.
We started a nice tradition where I send my wife's family's from Dallas, so I send my wife and kids to Dallas, and my Father's Day gift is quiet. Which, is awfully nice.
Interesting.
So, and I don't know, how do we celebrate? I send you a text, Happy Father's Day, thanks for being a good dad.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, see,
It's pretty
about right.
simple.
I think that's probably what's supposed to
simple.
happen. Yeah.
All right, so I know David's got kids. I got a 1-year-old little boy. Dad, Roger, talk to us about what do you do to raise little boys into good men?
I'll start on that. I'll say this: there have been countless amount of times when there'll be a situation that arises, and I'll freeze and think, they didn't teach us what to do here in school. They don't teach us how to be parents. So whenever that situation would happen, and typically those are the hard situations, not the easy ones, I'd always instantly say a prayer, ask for God's direction through the Spirit, and it's just amazing. Whatever the answer that comes into the head is, it was the most correct answer, and that got me through a lot of crisis as a father, and afterwards it would be, thank you, Father, thank you for showing me the way.
Yep, that's definitely it. In our house, it's God, family, and football, and in that order. And if there was anything that came up and you had to make a decision, well, is that putting that in front of God, or is that putting that in front of God? So if you just keep God first in everything, with God's help and prayer, it works out pretty good.
Hallelujah.
David, you got a 19-year-old. I mean, you're
do.
kind of right in the middle of the process.
Thanks for making me feel old, man.
Stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting. There are situations, kind of to your point, where your kids do something and you're like, I didn't do that. And I call my brother and I'm like, Derek, did you do something this dumb? And he's like, I don't think so. I did a lot of dumb things, but I didn't do that. And then you find yourself like, well, I don't really know what to do in this situation. So you do. You say a prayer, you talk to your wife, and you try to figure out what the best reaction is. But at the same time, when I talk to my children, I think the biggest thing that I try to establish is why are you doing certain things? And kind of the same point you said, Dad, is like, what are your priorities? So what's at the bottom of this joy that you're trying to accomplish? Like, when you're doing these certain activities or you're making bad decisions, why are you doing them? And then so we kind of we cut down layer by layer, and see, is the root of your joy in God, in ultimate happiness, or is it in just self-pleasure, or something other than what you should be seeking? And when you sit there and you're honest with your kids, they'll get down to it and be like, yeah, that was selfish. That was just me trying to be dumb and doing something that I shouldn't have done. And kids are pretty smart. They can figure it out at that point.
I'm a long ways away from that. My 1-year-old, when we're breaking down his reasonings for things, well, I'm hungry or I need to sleep, and that's pretty much it.
Well, my 1-year-old, so I was, just to give you an idea, I was left in charge last night of my 1-year-old for about 12 minutes. And she left the room, and my other daughter comes back in crying. And I was like, what happened? And she's like, Piper's in your room, and she colored on everything. And so I went in there, and she had colored with a marker on everything. And so it was difficult. I can't sit there with her, she's 1, and say, now Piper, was this a selfish decision? Did you really understand why you were doing this? Because that doesn't really resonate. So you got to find different ways.
Mine and Margaret Ann's rule pretty much at the end of every day, good or bad, we just say, okay, were the kids alive this morning? Yes. Are the kids alive now? Yes. It was a good day of parenting.
I had a friend that told me.
Didn't lose them.
Yeah, I had a friend that told me that before your child is 5, your only job is to keep them alive.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
All right, so Roger, you got 3 boys. All have done amazing things in their lives. 2 of them on a pretty national stage. What's it feel like to watch your boys kind of take off?
Well, they all had a dream, and it was at an early age. I'm gonna play in the NFL. I remember when we moved up here and I took David to his first Bulldog game. I'm going to walk down that ramp someday. I said, all right, yeah, you will, 5 years old. And that's just how it progressed. And just to see the work they put in to achieve their dreams, I was proud of that because they knew what it took. A lot of kids will say, yeah, I'm going to go to the NFL, I'm going to do this. Well, their work ethic that's not going to get you there. And but most of all, besides all their football, is the men that they are. God first, like I said, and that's how their family is. So I know my kids and my grandkids and all of them are living for God, and that I'm more proud about that than any of their football stuff.
Does it feel any different hanging out with the boys or anything like that after they become stars? Like when they hit it, does it feel any different than it did the day before they hit it?
No, because you always, like when David was getting pounded there in Houston, you always picture your son at a young age. And I mean, that's your kid out there taking this beating, or when, Derek has a tough loss or something, and I know the work that he put into it. That it hurts you a lot because you know what they've put into it, so that part's tough.
You've never had to watch me take a beating, huh?
Well, as I'm listening to Roger, it's like, Dad, I know what you're saying. I don't know. I imagine the pain hurts the kids more, but we're right there next to them. There's been many a time where I've had tears of joy, but also tears of sorrow, knowing that, wishing that I was the one going through the pain rather than my son.
Yep. And even when they're 40, you still think them as 12-year-olds.
Absolutely. They'll always be our kids. Yep.
All right, David, last question for you. Best piece of advice your dad ever gave you?
I mean, probably the best piece of advice is something that's kind of lost, honestly. Outwork everybody. It's really simple, but it's really hard. And it's something that a lot of people don't want to face and they don't want to deal with. They think that it's all about how they look before the game. It's about their uniform. It's about their Instagram likes. It's about their presence on social media and their standing within their buddies in high school. But in reality, I did things that were against the culture when I was in high school. They would have football practice. My dad would show up, watch the end of practice because he just got off work, and then we would go right back. I would be walking with my pads to the car, and he would be walking out with his cleats, and we would go right back on the field and throw some more balls for an hour. And we did that a lot. We did that so much that one of my best friends still brings it up. He's like, I'd be leaving practice, and he's one of the better players on our team, and you guys would be out there throwing balls, and it always made me think that you'll be successful in whatever you do. And it kind of tore him up because he's like, I should have been doing that. Now, he didn't get a chance to play in college or in the NFL like I did, but I wasn't more talented than him. I think that's the one thing that I can't stress enough to a lot of kids that I see. I mean, I'll meet a kid that's 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing as a freshman, and I was the same kid. I remember we met our high school football coach. We moved back from Fresno to Bakersfield, and my dad goes in, leaves me in the weight room, and he goes and introduces himself to the coach. And my coach later tells me this story. He's like, I see this 6'5" built guy, and I'm like, your son wants to play quarterback here? He's a freshman. And he walks in the weight room, and it's me. I'm 5'2", 100 pounds. And he's like, wait, where's your son? Is this your youngest son? It's like, no, that's your quarterback. And but we just worked extremely hard at everything that we did. We would spend extra time lifting when playbooks became available for high school and college. We spent a lot of time doing that.
And Derek still does that. Big win against the Chargers, and we go hang out for a little bit. Next thing, up to his room. He's already watching game film on his next opponent.
Wow.
He just had a big win.
Wow.
He's already watching film.
And that stuff's not easy. It's not. It really. It's not fun. It's not easy, but it translates over not just football, but every walk of life. If you want to be successful, you have to outwork everyone. Most people will quit. They aren't willing to do it. I mean, I used to have guys that I'd want to go throw balls with, and some guys would do it, and some guys would be like, I got something, I got to go do this and this, and you can always find a reason to not do something. But if you want to be successful and you got a goal, you got to stick to it.
So also with my two boys, You know, it's hard enough to make the NFL. There's only 1,700 men that get to play in the NFL. On this planet, only 1,700 jobs. 2 of my boys made it. Now, that goes back to God. That was God's plan.
That's right.
I mean, if God isn't involved, two of my boys making the NFL when there's only, 1,700 on this planet that make it, and they got there with God's help, but also just outwork everybody. Same with you. You probably outwork everybody.
I try.
Yep.
Dad, Roger,
David, happy Father's Day.
thank you, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. What was your dad's best advice? Just curious.
I was curious.
No, okay,
We'll save
okay.
that for the post.
Yeah, no. My dad's best advice, honest to God, was go to school in the South, find yourself a good Southern girl and marry her. And I didn't recognize it as good advice at the time, but my Texas-Louisiana hybrid wife is the joy of my life. So yeah, that was.
Nice.
I mean,
There's been more profound advice,
No,
but in
that's good.
terms of like tangible, making my day-to-day life awesome,
that was probably the most meaningful advice that you've given. So.
That was good advice. That was good advice.